Welcome to the Church Resource, where we talk about the best resources for pastors, leaders, and lay people. I'm your host, Jeff Oliver. I'm admitting right up front that I'm a little bit out of my depth on this book today because it is a book that I took from my wife's shelf, and it's not a book that I have worked through personally. So I'm just telling you that, but here's my experience with this book, and here's why I think that really any woman you know about should, because it's written by a woman. It's written very specifically to women, and so I think it's something that ought to be strongly considered in women's groups, among pastors' wives, among any church leaders' wives, any women who are in Bible study together and who deal with just the day-to-day of life. And so this book is The Best Yes. It is by Lysa TerKeurst, and she is part of the Proverbs 31 ministry, Proverbs 31 woman. And so this book has been so helpful to my wife in terms of looking at, and this term has made its way into our family's vernacular. My wife read this probably 10 years ago or more, and this term, the best yes. In other words, here's how it's used. There are so many good things that we can do, and so many things that are pulling at your attention, but I need to say no to that so that I can make the best yes in my life, so that there are so many good things, but what's really the best thing that I can do? A great way to illustrate that and explain this is they're interesting. The little comments all around the front of the book. As you look at the cover, there are comments. They're made by women, I'm sure made by Lysa TerKeurst herself. The comments are, I dread saying yes, but feel powerless to say no. Have you ever heard somebody say something like that, or seem that they're thinking something like that? Here's another one. I hope there's more to life than my to-do list. That certainly resonates. Also, I'm drowning in the regrets of too many commitments. Does that strike a bell with ring a bell with anybody? So also, I'm a little overwhelmed and a lot worn out. This is the life of so many people, especially women, especially moms who are just dealing with, again, everyday life and trying to make the best decisions in their life. But sometimes there are things that seem urgent that are not. And Lysa does a great job of helping you to sort through those things, helping you to get a foundation of setting priorities, of seeing what is important in your own life, and what things that God has prioritized already, what we see in His Word, that He prioritizes, that He makes of utmost importance, and then to see how we can go about to just enact those things in our lives, how we can go about making sure that we're doing the things that are truly important in life, and not necessarily the things that are just grabbing at our attention, because so many of those things will eat up our time and our energy, sometimes our money, and leave very little for us to be able to live the life that God has expected us to live. Now, if we're married, if we have children, of course those things are going to take time. Of course those things are going to take some away from what we might want to do. That's not what we're talking about. There are things that, of course, are priorities in our life. There are people, relationships that God has put in our life that, yes, they do take priority, but sometimes there are so many things that will compete for that attention that we need to be able to make sure that we're making the best yes. So Lysa TerKeurst has also come up with a study guide for this. It is didn't read the subtitle to this book. It's called Making Wise Decisions in the Midst of Endless Demands. So this study guide is in 6 sessions. It is written for groups or individuals. And again, just a way to take the content of the book and pull out the most important parts of that and make sure that really that you're getting the meat of that. And the study guide is then going to take what's in the book and make it very practical. So how do we deal with what we've already learned here in the Best Yes book? How do we take what we know there and implement that? How do we make sure that we're making the best decisions, making the best yeses in our life to in a way to serve our family, in a way to serve God well, in a way to honor God with the time and with the resources that he has given us, because from our perspective, they are limited. And God is a God of unlimited resources, though, to be able to help us and to help us determine what are the best decisions that we can make in our life. I do recommend this. I've seen this work so well in my own wife and in my own family, to get an idea of, and especially I think in the way that we will train our children. So we help them to grasp these ideas. Of course, we need to understand it first as parents, and then to be able to pass that along. Say, okay, well, these are the things that are competing for your attention. We say it, of course, in an age-appropriate way. Here are the things that you have decisions to make. So this or this or this, and then what's going to be the best use of your time and energy and money and such. So I think that it's so important for us to get an idea of how to do this, and to do that in a godly way, and again, a way that honors God, and that is that he would be pleased with the way that we're spending our resources on the things that he has put before us, because not everything is the best thing that we can do. Even though many things look good, we need to know how to prioritize that and not get overwhelmed by what life throws at us. So I just want to recommend this book to you. I want to say one thing about Lysa TerKeurst, if that name rings a bell, if it raises an eyebrow even. She wrote this book years ago. Again, as I said, I think this book has been around in my my wife's bookshelves for 10 years plus. But Lysa TerKeurst has dealt with very difficult times in her life. And so after writing this book, she dealt with a husband who was unfaithful to her. She went through a period of reconciliation and was bringing him back in. He was, again, committed adultery. And so she's had a very difficult time. Her more recent books come out of those situations, and I think she approaches them very graciously. So because there is scandal associated with her name, because there might be a reason for someone, as I said, to raise an eyebrow over this author, I don't think that's warranted. I think she's handled those things so very well and very publicly, to not to put the sins out publicly, but to help people to understand how to work through these things, because the struggle that she dealt with, the pain and heartache that she dealt with, has been out there for people to see. And then the ways that she helped to try to redeem that and to respond graciously to those situations, I think has been very good. So this is a solid author. I'm happy to recommend it. I'm happy to have my wife reading it. So it is obviously something that I'm going to endorse. I think that it's helpful here, especially this book, which is, I think, our first introduction to this author, and something that I think is really crucial for people to understand. How do we take all of the inputs that we have in life and make the best decisions? She even gives a kind of a decision flow chart. It's not going to happen that every decision we have to make fits well into those blanks, but I think it's a great way to think about how to think about these situations. So again, as I admit, this is one book from my wife's bookshelf that has been helpful to me and to her. Definitely, I think is something that you ought to have and consider for any woman in your life. I hope it gives you a bit of direction as you prayerfully consider which resources will best help you and the people you minister to. Thanks for listening to The Church Resource, and please make sure that you give us a review. And if you have any suggestions of resources that you would like us to look at, email us at thechurchresource@gmail.com. thechurchresource@gmail.com.